Greetings, Earthlings. This is the Plankton.
And this is the Amoeba.
And we're here to talk about the season premiere of The Walking Dead! Season 5. We've been waiting a very, very long time for it, so let's get right into it. There's a lot of things to talk about. So, let's start off with first impressions. How did this first episode feel?
Well, it was nice to get back to the group, and so it was exciting in that sense, but honestly, I didn't have an overwhelming excitement because I honestly felt like I'd seen the same episode 100 times. There was no real new themes in this episode, and even the big reveal of like what the cure wasn't even that interesting. It was like, okay. I mean, it was cool at like a medical level, but it wasn't like, wow, oh my gosh. You know, it wasn't the most exciting thing. And it was nice to see the characters. It was nice to have them at the end all come back together, but my first impressions were they could have upped it up a notch for the season premiere. What about you, Amoeba?
Well, my reaction is the completely opposite, because I was so excited. This was one of those episodes where I was just like cheering and like fist pumping and just like generally flailing my arms around the entire time. And just to see everybody back together, like that one little shred of happiness before everything goes up in flames again, because you know it's gonna go up in flames. So I'm just like, I'm holding on to this one little moment of where everything is going right and it's happy and everybody's back together, and I couldn't have been more excited to see everyone back together. And there were some moments that definitely showed a lot of like development and growth in the characters, and Morgan, that one little end scene of him at the track seeing the no sanctuary sign and then seeing the little X with the circle symbol, and he knows who it is and he's going off, and I'm just like, yes, Morgan is back. I was so excited. That ending itself was like, I wasn't expecting there to be another scene, and then he pops up as like a post-credit scene, and I was just like, yes, Morgan is back. And so then, well, let's start delving into the episode. Let's look at some of the character stuff that's gone on in this episode. What were the good stuff and the good character stuff that really stood out for you?
I actually really liked the guy from Terminus who was held up by Therese and what's the girl's name? What's the woman's name?
Carol?
Yeah, Carol, sorry. With Carol and then baby Judith. And I think he was kind of a good narrator for what the audience was thinking and what you must have to go through. And I think that was a really great kind of demonstration of why everyone's so violent and what they have to do. So I thought it was a really great way to kind of bring back the audience to what's really going on in this place, and I thought they did a really good job with that. And then I liked the turn. I liked Carol's turn. Like, Carol's development was awesome. Like, she came from this really timid person who was in a really bad abusive relationship, and then she just became weirdly evil, and it was all kind of uncomfortable, and now she's badass, and I quite enjoyed her whole sequence. Was amazing, where she just got to go off and do her own thing, and she just did an amazing job. And then at the end, you kind of saw like Daryl kind of soften up when he saw Carol, which is really nice because you don't get to see that often. And he does sometimes show. He showed it with Beth and stuff in the last season, but it was really nice to him just you kind of just felt like he can breathe all of a sudden. Like, this terrible thing happened, but it's still okay because finally we've come together as a group. So those are the three things I really enjoyed about that show, character-wise.
Well, yeah, definitely. When the guy was talking, though, I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe we'll leave him alive. But as soon as he threatened Judas, I was like, no, cross him off. Like, no way, you're not touching that baby. I did like that scene of Daryl's reaction when he sees Carol again, because it's so rare. Like, even throughout all the seasons that we've seen him kind of soften up, we've never actually seen him react that way. Like, he's not the guy who just suddenly turns around and just like runs right into your arms. Like, that's not the image you have of Daryl. He's like this tough guy, and yeah, he softens up sometimes, but that's like, you know, maybe a smile here and there, maybe he gives you a hug here and there. But this is like, he's like a 5-year-old kid who just got so excited it's like Christmas or something, and he's just like turned around, saw her, and just like bolted right towards her. I was a little surprised at just how much enthusiasm that you put in that hug. I was like, whoa. I didn't expect Daryl to react in such a way. I was like, yeah, I expected him to be really happy to see Carol, because, you know, like, they haven't seen her and they didn't know what happened to her, obviously. You know, this is still their family, but it's just, his reaction was just so out of line with what we usually expect from Daryl. Like, it still fits perfectly in character, and you see him sort of let loose for this 1 second, but it was just very interesting because it's the first time we've seen that sort of a reaction from him, and we haven't seen anything like that before. I was like, you've never seen Daryl running off to hug someone. It's not something that we've seen in any of the 4 seasons that's happened. And I'm really excited to see Judith reunite with Rick and Carl, and then Sasha and Tyrese coming together. Just like one giant reunion of like everybody being happy. And I was so glad to see them coming back together, because it's been such a hard road, and you know, they really earned this moment. And I was worried that we were gonna see this whole thing dragged out with Terminus. I thought it was gonna be like, you know, 2 or 3 episodes are gonna be stuck in Terminus. So the fact that they completely just got out of Terminus right away, immediately, that was like something new. I was like, wow, they really kicked up the storyline and speeded it along. So, I mean, I don't think the cure part is necessarily the big reveal that's most important. I think what really was the point in this show, and really this episode, I think just the whole show in general, is about these characters and these people and their relationships. Really, that's kind of the center stage and how they survive. And the cure, I honestly just think, like, even them revealing that isn't that big of a deal, because it's not meant to be that big of a deal, because I think that's all it is. It's a side mission. It's not the main point of what we're going to get to see this season, and I think for me that's okay, because I think I just really want to see these characters, and you know, if they have a little mission along the way, they've got a road and a goal to get to, that's okay, because it's all functioning for character growth and what kind of dilemmas they have to make. Because I think it's really, they're all there to serve the character. So in that sense, I'm completely okay with this reveal not being really anything that big, because I figured it was going to be something like that. Like, there's really only so many ways you can cure a disease. Like, there's not really anything that new. But I was just glad all the characters, like, I just love the fact that we see these characters grow so much, and just the badass way that they took down Terminus, and you know, I was just cheering for them the entire time. I was like, yes, knock down all these bad people. It's like, I mean, like, I like the fact that they did show what the Terminus people went through, that they did genuinely have a good idea, and they really wanted to help, but it was circumstance that turned them into this way. But at the same time, I was still like, nah, you know, it's like you root for the family, the team from the prison, because they've been through so much, and they're still remaining to be good people. So, you know, the thing is, like, if they could still be good and, you know, still look out for people and not be cruel butchers and cannibals, then there's no reason why other people can't do the same, even if they're pushed into these extreme circumstances. So, you know, for that reason, I was like, no, they're still the bad guys, because they're trying to hurt these people, and it's still not right, and I'm just very glad to see them get taken down a notch. I'm sure some of them will still survive and we'll come and see them later, because we see that in the season 5 trailer. Some of those characters are still there. But I was just, it was very satisfying to see Terminus burn. And some of those characters, especially when Carol shot that lady, Mary, who was like the cook. And it was like, I get what she went through, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm so glad Carol took her down and just left her for the walkers. I'm like, yes. It's like, maybe I'm feeling a little evil, but after everything, I'm just like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so just what is there that you didn't really like? I know you touched on some of the things, but was there anything else that you felt like this episode didn't really give you what you wanted?
Well, I don't feel like the then and now part was as impactful as they meant it to be. I thought it was kind of ridiculous. It didn't make any sense. I was like, now? What's now? Like, there was no definitive timeline going on. Like, it was really weird at first. And then that was really hard to say. And then when they've stuck in the then, it was unnecessary. It was completely unnecessary. She already told you her story. Showing it to me didn't make me change my feelings. It wasn't as impactful. It wasn't any wow. Literally, they took exactly what she said, which she did well. I mean, I understood what she was saying. I got it. Like you said, I didn't really necessarily feel like I felt bad for her, but it didn't change my mind about her. But then adding in that scene that literally just depicted what she said and showed me nothing new didn't do anything for me at all. It was so unnecessary. It was kind of just a weird, they're like, oh, we've got 5 extra seconds, what are we going to do with those? Like, I just didn't understand why they felt they needed that in the show. It was unnecessary. I was out of character. It was not impactful at all. I thought, see, the only way they start, nesting. I call it nesting whenever they join a compound. I know they didn't join this one, but it followed the same kind of theme where they're going to join it, and then shit happens, like it always does. But the only way they can manage to get out of these things is a horde of zombies come, which I understand they live in a zombie universe, and I understand that the zombies are literally growing as much as the world population is now, daily, but I feel like there's gotta be a different way to use those tools. Like, they just can't keep on reusing that plot twist over and over and over again. Like, after the 5th time, it's kind of boring. So I was kind of disappointed. I was like, oh, look, another zombie horde, helping them get out of another situation. Like, they should be thanking the freaking zombies by now, okay? Because they've helped them so much. And they don't even do that. So that was the thing that was really bugging me. It was just like, it was something new. It was just, I agree that I was happy that they did not stay in Terminus, because I do not like it when they start nesting and settling. I do like it when they're on the road. You get to see them kind of go off on their own and come back, and I like seeing how other people are living in other places. I don't like it when they start settling. So that was exciting, but at the end, like, Terminus was going to be this great thing, and then it, again, had no impact on me, so I don't know. What about you?
I don't know. I don't think I can think of something that really didn't hit me the way I wanted to. Like, it was a season premiere that I expected it to be. Like, it moved on the storyline, and it set up sort of the question of what things are gonna go from now, because I think it's left a lot of possibilities really wide open, and especially since we know some of the characters from Terminus does end up with Rick and the others. I think that puts a very interesting spin on just how the conflict is going to be and how do you really trust people. And I mean, I think, yes, you're right in saying that it is another zombie horde, and it is another, group that was all too good to be true. But I think the way that they use it to show a growth in the characters is really, like I said before, I think a lot of these plot points are very much the same, but we look at these same plot points as we did a couple seasons ago, and we see how these characters change, how these characters have grown. You know, how seasons ago, you know, maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, they wouldn't have reacted this way going into Terminus. You know, it's like, I think that's why, to me, even though it is kind of the same plot, the same zombie horde over and over again, and the whole idea of like Terminus being a place where they can like nest, I think the fact that they do bring in these kind of same similar plot lines is a way to show how much these characters have changed and grown from where we saw them, because if we had seen them back in season 1 and they'd gone to a place like Terminus, they wouldn't have gotten out. You know, that's just a fact. That's not who those people were. They wouldn't have been able to, before coming into Terminus, be prepared and say, okay, let's leave this bag here in case something doesn't go right, and don't trust people. You know, that would not have been who they were. The group that we met years ago would have been too naive and too trusting. And the fact that they come into the situation again, and this time they're prepared, they know how to get themselves out. Yes, this is the same zombie herd, but look at the way they efficiently clear their way out. You know, they are stuck in a zombie apocalypse. There really is not that many different ways you can pull up a threat. You know, it's kind of just the fact that you either have bad people or zombies chasing after you. There's really not anywhere else to go, but I think the growth and the interest is in seeing how these characters grow in reaction to all these things that happen. And I think that's probably why, for me, I didn't feel like there was anything really lacking for me, just because like there's so much growth in how they react to this incident that, you know, I'm intrigued to see where else they're gonna go with this. Like, you know, what's gonna happen if they meet up with the guys from Terminus again, and you know, what's gonna happen if they find another spot where they can nest? You know, like, you know, are they gonna build better defenses? Are they gonna fortify more? Are they gonna be more colder or more brutal? Like, I think it's interesting to see as they get further and further into this zombie world, as, you know, longer it is away from this, you know, the start of the zombie apocalypse, you see not just the characters change, but the world around them changing as well. And I think, you know, I'm interested to see how that goes and how they deal with all the different other people that are out there, you know. I think we know that Rick has turned a new leaf after his whole little throat biting incident from the end of last season. But I really do think that it's kind of the jolt that they needed to realize, yes, you know, they have to be a little darker and they have to be a little more cruel and maybe a little more cold. But I like that at the same time, there are still characters who do try to pull Rick back and who do tell him, you know, hey, look, there are things that we don't have to do. You know, there is a question of like, you know, are they the bad guys too? You know, they're not exactly built for a civilized world anymore, and can they really return to who they are? And I don't know if that's what Beth's storyline is dealing with, but it's very interesting to see where she's going to be. So I think that's my only disappointment. I was like, I would have loved to see Beth. Oh, but they had a new opening credit.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. I thought that was great because after 4 seasons, you were like, what I love about the opening credit is the music. And I love the fact that they don't feel the need to show you the characters and show you the zombies. It's all in the illusion that it's all lurking behind the shadows. It's all lurking behind the door. Which just makes it so scary. Because if you binge watch this show and you watch the opening credits 20 times, you're just freaking out inside. You're like, I start getting like sweats. I'm like, it's almost hypnotized me to realize fear when I hear that music. So I think one of the best things about the show, honestly, besides the characters and everything, the plot and the storyline, is definitely the opening credits. It's one of the best opening credits, and they never shortened it, which I'm really impressed about. Because I hate shows that give you an amazing credit and then they just go to the title scene and that's it, it's over for the rest of the season. And they've never done that.
The fact that it's a cable show, that's one of the things I'm glad of, is that cable shows do get the luxury of having a proper opening sequence. It's like shows like Walking Dead and like Game of Thrones, like being these big cable shows, like their opening credit scenes really define what the show is. It's like the Walking Dead one. It's scary. It's strange, and it's like when you hear it, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and it works really well for Halloween Horror Night when you're walking through the maze. Like, as soon as you're walking through, you hear that music, you're like ah. So I recommend people to go to Halloween Horror Nights and run through the Walking Dead maze because it's fun. But yeah, really, that opening credit. And I also like the fact that instead of showing the characters, they show some things that are representative of characters. Like this season, this new one, we saw under Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick, it's the gun. And then for Daryl, it's the jacket with the wings on the back. And they've changed a few of the characters, like whatever their symbol is, except for Glenn. Glenn still has the little dangling clock thingy going on. But it's always interesting because you can always try to discern if they're putting some stuff in about where the character is going to go based on what those things they show in the opening credits. So that's always kind of like, I know for a lot of people, they will sit there and analyze what the things mean. Like, do they mean the characters are gonna die, or do they mean the characters are gonna still live on? And it's interesting. Like, I do think that the choices they make in those opening credits are very deliberate. It's not just like, oh, they threw in some random stuff to represent the character. Like, they have a very specific meaning. I think it's been a really great opening sequence and an opening to the season, because I think it's left a lot of things open. So, how do we rate this episode? What do we think?
I always think it's important to watch the season premiere. Though it was not my favorite season premiere, I definitely feel like you needed to see it. I mean, you wouldn't understand what was going on after unless there was like before, or like the episode before they left Terminus, and then you're like, oh, okay, So I would rate this as a 0 bathroom break, just because there was no lull in the action. I can definitely say that. It was definitely exciting all the way through. It definitely had everything you wanted from The Walking Dead, though it wasn't as ramped up as I'd want. It was still worthwhile seeing, and it definitely was strong all the way through, so.
Yeah, definitely no bathroom breaks. I mean, if you really want bathroom breaks, there's like commercial breaks, so you can go to the bathroom anyways. So I don't see why you would ever miss it. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I feel like if you don't watch a season premiere, you're gonna like come into episode 2 and be like, but I thought they were going to Terminus. Like, what happened? It's just like, end of the season, everybody's at Terminus, and episode 2, everybody's out walking around the woods. You're like, I feel like, did I miss a whole season somewhere? So yeah, definitely no bathroom breaks, unless you want to walk into episode 2 and be really confused on why they're still wandering around the woods somewhere together. You're gonna miss a whole entire big chunk of the episode that actually explores.
You don't even want to miss the ending of the credits, because that's what I do.
Exactly, you don't want to miss the reintroduction of Morgan, who's apparently gonna somehow meet up with the group again, so that's gonna be exciting. Definitely, when he showed up at the end, I was like screaming my head off. So I was like, ah! But yeah, so great season, great start, and
Great season, yeah.
great season opener, and can't wait to see what this season's gonna bring. So, peace out.